blended family on another Monday episode. I say this about every episode, but this one really is. This one is so powerful because we're touching on a topic that is probably one of the biggest challenges we can have as a blended family, and that's co-parenting.
So, can I get a amen?
You've got two different households, and it's a challenge, right? It can really be a struggle. But today we have a special guest, Katie from Co-Parenting Peacefully, that is here to share a lot of wisdom, man. This is going to be a great episode that you're going to walk away going, wow, okay, yeah, no, I got a lot of value from that.
Yeah, and the amazing thing with the things that she's going to talk about is that you do not have to change. The other parent doesn't have to change anything for you to enjoy the family that you have. And so stay tuned right after this.
So we are here enjoying your blended family, and we are so excited to have Katie here from Co-Parenting Peacefully. How are you doing, Katie?
I'm fantastic. How are you guys?
Oh, we are doing great. So this is one of those topics that can be a little tricky and a little tough, right? I mean, blended families, we've had our fair share of, it's just whenever you have that divorce, you normally divorce for a reason. You divorce because there's differences. You divorce because you're not seeing eye to eye and just things happen. And we can carry that with us, with our kids. And as we're trying to parent together now separately, now we have two homes, two different thoughts, two different things. And it's so easy for that to get out of control. It's so easy for us to allow just things to get in our way, things to really just go south. And really the ultimate person who struggles from that is our kids, right? Because our kids, they just, man, it's so hard on them already. Yeah. And then to add that added pressure. And so I love your message, Co-Parenting Peacefully. And we're going to get into that here momentarily. But man, that's the goal. That's the ticket. You know, it's kind of like Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory. I want that golden ticket. How do we do it? You know? So yeah, I think the more information, the more just resources we can have, man, the more we can obtain that. So now we're so glad that you are here. So we always love to say, we love to start anyways. Just tell us a little bit about your family dynamics.
Okay. So my family dynamic is that my co-parent and I have been apart for 5 years now, just about. I have someone that I'm seeing, but no one that I've introduced the kids to yet. Yeah. He has had kind of a line of people who've been in and out of the kids' lives. He has a girlfriend now that he's been with for a little bit on and off, but I think they're on an on time right now for about maybe 2 years, close to that. And I really think of her as the kids' stepmom, even though they're not married. She really is, for my kids, she's wonderful. I love her a lot. I'm happy that they're together. That's good. So that's kind of where we're at right now. She has 2 kids. So, you know, my kids think of her kids as their siblings. My kids are 6 and 8. So it's been a while and they were really little when we divorced.
So I follow you on Instagram because I just love the message that you're putting out there, because there are so many people that can't get along with their ex or don't even know that should be a goal, like, you know, for you and your ex-spouse because of the divorce and everything. You think, okay, you should keep it completely separate. But for those that have never heard of Co-Parenting Peacefully, can you tell them like just what it is, what you do there?
How did it come about?
Yeah, how did it come about?
So originally Co-Parenting Peacefully was just kind of like going to be this Instagram account that a few people found that might help them learn how to co-parent, because there's no manual. Right. Like, I don't know, maybe in your state, you guys have a course that you have to take, but they're like these little, 60-minute courses that don't really teach you anything. Through the court system.
So I really wanted to be bad at that time. Like, oh yeah, I was listening to that.
Yeah. You can't even retain anything. So I really wanted this Instagram account just to be somewhere for people to come and find some tips and advice. But then it kind of became like, well, how can I help people on an individual basis? How can I really help people help themselves and their kids? So now I offer coaching and, all kinds of stuff, but it really, the true meaning to me is to really help people, just be a place for them to come and find some free advice and learn.
Well, that, yeah, and it is. It's as we were talking about, we've been on this journey almost 15 years, and there wasn't a lot of resources and not a lot of help. So, like you said, there's no manual, and every blended family, it seems, has a little different dynamics. So that's why we always love asking, kind of what is your dynamics? Because yours looks different than ours, and ours looks different than theirs. And, there's so much, but some of the core beliefs and some of the core thoughts are the same in it. So that's what kind of makes it so powerful. So we just kind of want to start diving into some of your wisdom in this area. So let's use the what if scenario. So what if there is a couple that has just recently divorced and they're just in the midst? Because whenever you divorce, you don't think about it. You don't think about, oh, wait, there's going to be co-parenting down the road. There's going to be new boyfriends, new girlfriend. You're not thinking any of that yet. You just fall into it. And then you're like trying to stumble your way through the dark and manage this. But what if there's this new couple out there that's just starting to experience this? What advice would you be able to give them or share? What wisdom do you have for that?
So I think the most important thing is, well, there are a few, of course, but the thing that I always want people to understand is, like you said, this is going to look different for everyone. So just because your neighbors co-parent and they have like family dinners with the new spouses, and like that doesn't have to be how it looks for you. So really understanding that this might not work the way that Sally and Bob's relationship works. You guys have to leave yourselves room to figure out how this new dynamic is going to look. And it might look very different than someone else's, and that's okay. Like, it doesn't have to be one way or the other. Boundaries. I think that boundaries are hard for people. And just because you might need a boundary, like, hey, I don't really want you to come into my home. We have to stop taking boundaries so personally. Boundaries have to exist so that you guys can be mentally healthy and so that you can co-parent peacefully. Really learning to respect those are super important things to do. Flexibility too. We have to remember that being flexible with each other is important. Scheduling wise, especially in the very beginning, because you guys are just figuring this out. Like, who knows what it's going to look like? There might need to be changes in the future. And apologizing. Oh, I love it because this is all new and you guys are going to mess up. Nobody's perfect. So if we can just like, hey, I'm really sorry. That wasn't my best self. Can we do a do-over? There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
That's one thing I see you model, even as, like I said, I follow you on Instagram. So some of the stuff that you're going through still in real time, you're modeling it for those out there that are going through that. And you'll say like, I might not have handled it correctly. So I had to apologize in this situation. And I think that's big, because a lot of times you get to a point where you don't want to apologize because then you're admitting you were wrong, and you don't want to admit you're wrong because you don't want to come across like you don't know what you're doing. Or, we say even like with the court system, you're afraid like if I do this a certain way, then when the courts get involved, then I look like the bad parent. But being able to just take all of that off the table and just be a human and say, I messed up.
But that alone can desensitize the situation. If I'm being apologized to, like, hey, I'm sorry I messed up, I'm like, that diffuses me. That diffuses my anger. And it's kind of the opposite. It's like when we can get over our pride and we can get over I feel like a failure as a parent syndrome, then it really does. It breaks down walls. So I love how you said that. Yeah, just apologize.
And it's so hard to do, but it's so important. I mean,
well, and truth be told, we're all going to mess up.
Yes.
We're all going to make mistakes, a lot of them, right? So man, so powerful. And I love that flexibility, being able to be flexible. And then, as you said, not comparing yourself. I think that's a big trap within itself, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I have so many clients who will come to me, and even just like DMs on Instagram. Well, I can't get my co-parent to want to, sit next to me at the extracurriculars. I can't get my co-parent to do X, Y, and Z. And like, maybe that's just not how it's going to work. Yeah. And there's kind of a grieving process when you want the relationship to work one way and your co-parent doesn't. You have to kind of be willing to let go of that expectation and grieve the type of relationship that you wish you had, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Yeah. So good. So good. That is true. I can remember a lot of those situations. Like, and just like you said, I can't make them, right? We can't. We can't control them. And
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest hiccup, right? We're trying to control them and make them fit in our box. And then we get disappointed whenever that doesn't work. And it's weird because that never works, right?
I know. It's like this whole force creates resistance idea. Like the harder you push, the more they're going to probably back away, or they're going to come at you harder, and you guys are just going to butt heads.
Yes.
So really
we
allowing
find
yourselves that space.
In our parenting and with our exes, it's taken a lot. Like we have situations too where it might be considered high conflict. They probably think we're high conflict, and obviously we think they're high conflict. And so our kids are older now. Our youngest is 19. So we didn't have all this great advice like what you're talking about that you would have given. Like, I wish I could turn back time and I could go back to a time where I'd be like, oh, maybe I should have been a little more flexible, or maybe I shouldn't have tried to force it to be like this. And I wish I could have gone back, but I didn't. So what would you say to those that are like in a situation with someone that's a little more high conflict? Or sometimes you might even notice the person talking to you might be the high conflict person. They don't even know. Because I feel like I didn't realize I was high conflict. I was just right. I was just trying to raise good kids and my way was the right way, So what would you say to someone that's dealing with that, or maybe they are the person themselves?
So I think one of the things to touch on is that conflict is normal in any co-parenting situation, whether it's actually a high conflict situation or not. So expect a little bit of conflict. But if you're co-parenting with someone who is truly high conflict, like they want to push all your buttons, they don't do what's best for the kids, they use the kids against you, then your best bet is probably to try to kind of protect yourself, make sure that you have good boundaries. I'm sure most people have heard of gray rocking, but that's really the idea that like what you say to them is very short, to the point. You're not getting involved in those fights. One of my favorite phrases is you don't have to attend every fight that you're invited to. Yeah. So, and like your high conflict co-parent, they might invite you to a lot of those fights. And it's your job to step back and say, I don't have to get involved in this. Like that can really help decrease the fighting, but it's so tempting because you want to defend yourself.
Yes.
You're like, that's not true. I don't do that. But the more you give them, the more they have to figure out how to play on your emotions and how to work you. So I always say, like, just calm it down. You don't have to respond. And also, so as far as boundaries go, those are so important when you're dealing with someone high conflict.
Yeah, explain boundary. You talk a lot about boundaries, kind of.
I love boundaries.
Yeah, no, you do. And you've even got like some free resources and stuff out there kind of describing some of these boundaries. So could you go over maybe some of that and just kind of explain what that is or what that looks like or could look like?
Sure. I would love to. So boundaries are the things that keep you safe. They protect your mental health. They protect your kids. They protect your home. And those are things like, if you continue to talk to me the way that you are, I'm going to end the conversation. And then you have to actually end the conversation. Or, and that's really hard too. I'm not going to answer your calls between 9 and 6 a.m. unless it's an emergency or something like that. I'm not comfortable sharing my relationship status with you. I'll let you know if it turns into anything. Those are kind of like, because like I said before, the more information you give your high conflict co-parent, the more they have to work with. So the boundary piece is so important. And there are so many different boundaries, but a lot of people really need them as far as parenting time, as far as communication, as far as like their home. I have a lot of people who tell me that their co-parent will just like walk into their house or they know the garage code. Or they like,
shoot, the code.
And I'm like, but it's time for you guys to separate. And it's okay for them not to be allowed to just like walk into your house and come into the kitchen and get a glass of water. That's okay that they don't do that.
Right.
So like, and the boundaries, remember, too, are for you. So like we said before, to protect your mental health, to protect your kids, they're not really to force your co-parent to do anything. They're to kind of keep your peace and your sanity.
Yeah, no, that's good. And kind of as you were talking, I do, kind of through our journey, we've had those, right? And it always seemed like me and my ex-spouse, we could push each other's buttons like no one else could. We knew the right things to say. And it seemed like every time we would get on the phone with each other, it's like one would start slinging mud and then the other, and it wouldn't stop until it was an all out, we would just draw out the worst in each other, and it was so hard to finally reach a point to say, I'm not doing that anymore. I can't, there's a reason why we're not together. I don't have to continue doing this. I don't even have to put on the boxing gloves. There's no need. And Absolutely. So as you're saying, putting boundaries of, if it gets to this point, I'm hanging up. I'm not, there's no need to escalate the conversation.
Oh my gosh.
But it's such an easy trap to fall into.
Absolutely.
I know everybody listening, they're like, oh, yeah, but you don't know what just happened last night, or what happened on this phone call. So we're not saying it's easy by any means, but as you're saying, Katie, putting up those boundaries are for you. It's for your sanity. It's for your health. And it's ultimately so you can be a better person and a better parent, right?
Absolutely.
Do you normally suggest like coming up with the scenarios and then deciding, okay, what's a healthy boundary for this before the situation happens? Or like you just wait till a situation occurs and then however it triggers you, then you like, okay, what can I do to fix this? Because I feel like in the moment, it's hard to like remember, like, what do I do right here? Like,
yeah. So I think for most people, there might be some things when you're coming away from your relationship that you're like, I cannot stand it when they do X, Y, and Z. And so you might have a few things that you already know you need a boundary around. But I think you kind of need the experience. You have to kind of live it for a while and figure out like, this is okay. I can handle this, but this I cannot handle. And this needs to be changed. And then those are kind of your areas where you need boundaries. Like I always like to tell people what bothers you, what hurts you, what leaves you feeling like you are so stressed out that you're going to explode. Those are probably places you need boundaries.
Do you suggest telling the ex, hey, I've established some boundaries?
Okay. So that really depends on
my list.
Yes, this is what we're going to do from now on.
If you'll get it notarized and return it back.
Oh my gosh. So that might depend too on whether you and your co-parent get along well. Because if you guys get along well and you really think that they hear you and they understand you and they're going to respect you, it's probably okay to say like, hey, I would prefer you don't call after 9 p.m. But if you have a high conflict person and you tell them, I don't want you to call me after 9 p.m., guess what they're going to do? They're going to call you. So in that case,
make sure they call you.
Yeah, they'll be sure. They'll set an alarm.
Yeah.
9:03 every day. So in those cases, a lot of times, especially with high conflict people, you really don't have to voice what you're doing. You can just do it. Unless, it gets tricky. Like if, maybe you're going to court, you might want to say, this is what I'm no longer tolerating and this is what will happen. And here's what we'll do later. An example of that might be, I'm going to end the call if you continue to verbally abuse me, but I will call you tomorrow and we can discuss if things can be productive. Because sometimes you might need you don't want to go to court and have someone be like, well, they never called me again. Yeah. So there are some things that you may want to touch base with an attorney about, or you may want to, do a little differently. But for the most part, your high conflict people, you don't want to tell them what you're doing or why.
Yeah. Hey, B fam, we'll be back in just a minute. Check this out. Have you joined our Enjoying Your Blended Family email group yet? It's a free thing to be a part of. This is another great way for us to stay connected. We send out an email once a week that is blended family specific. We share all kinds of encouragement and keep you informed with anything that's coming up. You'll be one of the first ones to know. It's a great family community to be a part of. But when you join our group, we want to give you our new free This or That blended family game. Well, we added 2 more bonus games, so really you're getting 3 games you can play with your family. These games are easy and fun, but they can also help you discover things that you have in common with each other. It can open up fun conversations and really just give you ideas for planning fun things to do in the future with your family. We truly believe that the more fun you have together, the less problems you can see. So join our Enjoying Your Blended Family group today and get your free copy of our new This or That Blended Family games. The link is in the show notes, so see you there. Now back to this episode. And I do love how, like in a lot of your things, you will revert back to your attorney, make sure you're getting good legal advice and things of that, because that can come back and really hurt you later if you're not careful with that. So I love how you always say that too.
And I love too, it's not like you're focused on how to deal with the high conflict ex. It's co-parenting peacefully. The goal is to co-parent peacefully, not necessarily let me shut down or teach this high conflict person how they're going to handle life.
Yeah. And like I said, co-parenting peacefully means something different for everyone. So however it looks for you is great. If you guys have a functioning relationship, then I don't really care how you get there. I just care that you're there.
Yeah.
And, that's a wonderful thing when you can get there.
Yeah. And that both of you are healthy. and I guess that's where it is, right? It's like, that's that piece, as long as you're comfortable with the situation and kind of what's going on. So that's the ultimate goal. I mean, you've given us so many good nuggets right now. What is something else that we haven't asked or haven't pulled from you that you would want to share? Make sure that our listeners just have this.
So I guess one of the things that I would love to just touch a little bit on is, and this kind of goes back to what we talked about in the beginning, not expecting certain things out of your co-parenting relationship, but also managing your expectations, which basically means your co-parent is who they are and you are who you are. So pushing for either one of you to change is only going to cause anxiety and stress for both of you. If you guys can kind of accept who you both are in this moment, it's going to be so much easier for you guys to really get along and figure out how to do this. Because when you're constantly pushing, he won't do this, she won't do this, I expected them to behave the way that I would, I want X, Y, and Z to happen. How does that help? How is that helpful to you? How is it helpful to your kids? How is it helpful to your co-parent? The whole thing.
Great advice. And I think that's probably what led to divorce and stuff. We were trying to control each other.
Yeah, you want someone to change. You want them to be who you think they should be. And that's probably not going to happen, especially now. You know?
For sure.
I was so set on when I started with the divorce process and raising the kids, or even while I was still married to my ex, I was so set on a good mom does this. A good family looks like this. And so like Randall was saying, and like you were saying, when I was married to him, this is what I didn't have it growing up. And so I was set that I was going to give my kids this kind of life. We were going to make sure that we parented them the right way so that our kids grew up.
The right
way. So the kids grew up to be successful adults. That was my whole goal. And I couldn't ever get my ex to sign up to that. And eventually, we were married and then eventually divorced. And he certainly wouldn't sign up for it when we were divorced. And so I spent so much of my own energy trying to get him to do what I thought he should do in his house and in my house. And it didn't ever work.
No,
you're so right.
And I've done that too. For a long time, my co-parent and I were pretty high conflict. It was really difficult. We couldn't even, there were no phone calls happening, because we couldn't even get on the phone without there being some sort of conflict.
Yeah.
But I was always pushing too, why don't you just do this? Why can't you just do this? The kids don't do this at my house. Why do they do it at your house? And finally I was like, I can't, I'm going to drive myself crazy.
Yeah.
If the kids are eating and they're clothed and they're making it to school, what really matters other than that? And healthy and safe and all of those things. But sure. How much can you try to control without driving yourself nuts?
That's it. And I think you're 100% correct. It's once we can let go of that, which is the hardest thing, let go of those expectations and say, they're going to parent the way that they are, because they're their own person. That's what they believe to be right. And, whether I like it or not, they are my kid's parent. I mean,
And
there is no changing that. We both had a choice in that, and that's kind of where we're at now, and I found that the more that we did self-reflection and the more we worked on ourselves, the better things got.
Definitely. And I think that's important too, that you bring that up. Like I think you mentioned earlier that maybe I sometimes talk to people who don't recognize that they're the high conflict one, and that does happen. And it's pretty easy to pick that out once you start talking to someone. And I think maybe if people would kind of take a step back and not only evaluate like what's wrong at my co-parent's house, but what could I do differently? How am I contributing to the conflict? How am I making life a little bit more difficult? Sometimes that's helpful too, just to sit back and like ask yourself the hard questions. What can I change? What can I do better? How can I help this be a more functional relationship?
Yeah.
Would you say there was a moment in your parenting that you decided, okay, I can't do it like this anymore? Like how you were saying y'all had a hard time in the beginning and it got to you to a point where like, I can't do it. Was there like a moment, a story, or was it just like built up everything?
I think it built up, and then and so here's the thing too, I manage my expectations. My co-parent, he's always going to be who he is. And I had to change my behavior because I knew he wasn't going to change his. And when that moment hit that I thought, I am going to explode if this doesn't change, that was probably maybe a year and a half ago. And I can't say that there was like one particular thing that happened, but it just became pretty obvious that I was also contributing to the problem and I needed to change. And I think sometimes maybe some people do have that huge moment, and other people might all of a sudden one day just think like, oh man, this is not working. And that's, however it happens, if it happens, that's always a moment that you can reevaluate. You can make changes, you can grow, and your co-parent might not, but you can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's so true. It does seem like it's just little thing after little thing after little thing.
Oh my gosh.
And it builds up to where it just gets to a point of saying, I don't want to live this way anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't want my family to live this way. I don't want my kids to go through this, because whenever we're at each other, when us and our co-parent are just at it all the time, we don't realize how much pressure that we're putting on our kids.
Yeah. And you know what's so funny is my kids, I noticed once, because like I said, my co-parent is who he is, and he's probably not going to change. But when I started changing and I started like saying no to the fights, when I started putting up the boundaries, when I started to become a little bit more happy and healthy, I really noticed a change in my kids. Yeah. And I can't pinpoint exactly what it was, but I just noticed that they were coming to my house. The exchanges were easier. Things were, a little bit less stressful for them. They really started to kind of like laugh more, which, they can feel your stress.
Yeah.
So I really noticed that in them.
Yeah, you can. It's just crazy, scientifically, the human body's how we sense each other's emotions. And we feed off that, and how much our kids are connected to us. They sense that. And they love their other parent, and they should, just like they love us, and they should on that. And whenever we're going against that, they're suppressing emotions they don't even know they're going through. And they just know that they're unhappy. Some mom's not happy, dad's not happy. I'm not happy. I don't even know why I'm not happy.
And they feel so torn between the two. Yeah. When they know that you're fighting, it's like they feel torn to even enjoy life. Like, I love that you said they started laughing more, because that's the core of what we believe here. Enjoy your blended family, like have more laughter, have more fun. And so I love that you said that you noticed that just from the changes that you made. No, he did not have to change.
Nope. He didn't change a thing.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. And the other thing too, I know, is it's been really good for my kids to hear me say to them, it's okay for you to like his girlfriend. I'm not going to say her name, but it's okay for you to like her. Yeah. It's okay for you to love other people, because it really creates a space for them to be happy and enjoy the relationship that they have with her. And then they share things with me. Yeah. Instead of feeling like they have to keep it a secret, because they really do love her, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I want them to have a safe place to come and tell me like, hey, we went to the zoo and it was awesome. And she did this and the kids did this and dad did this. Like, that's great for us. We love that. I love that here.
When I love that you express that, because that's probably one of the toughest things as a parent is the child being in a relationship like that. They're already like, if I love this person, then I'm not loving my parent over here as much. Or, if I'm giving love here, then what is my mom going to think of me? Or, and there's so much stress. And for you as a mother, or just as a parent, to be able to express that to your kids, say, it's okay. You relieve that pressure from them to be able to have fun and joy and stuff. So man, wow. Yeah, that's powerful right there.
It took a while to get here. Don't be fooled. It was a lot of years, but
that's a tough thing as a parent. We both been there too. And man, that is. But once you can get there, there's so much beauty in it. And there's so much peace in it that just benefits you. It benefits your kids. Man, wow. Yeah. But it's tough.
Yeah.
It's hard. Oh my goodness. Yes, there have been some moments, and that's not to say that every now and then my kids love tacos. And if you follow me on Instagram like you do, you probably have heard about this, but they love her tacos and I'm a horrible cook. So every now and then when they come home and they're like, yes, she made tacos. I'm like, of course she made tacos. But, it's like I just have like every now and then there's a moment, but she knows about this. So it's like, we laugh about it. But
yeah, I have this story that I just was telling my 18-year-old months ago. I was telling her that when she would come home and say her stepmom makes good pancakes, all I hear is, you suck, you can't cook, your pancakes taste like trash, and I never want to eat them again.
Yes.
And I was explaining to her, as now she's a young adult and she can hear some of those things. And she's like, man, mom, like, wow. And I was like, I know, but it's taken a while. It's like all the insecurities. Women in general have so many insecurities. And now you're sharing your child with somebody else, and you have that fear that they're going to love them and want to go live with them full time and not need you anymore as their mom. And so something simple like tacos and pancakes can just feed into that insecurity.
Yeah, it's like, for me, the tacos is the only thing. And like I said, she and I laugh about it. She knows about it, but I'm like, I don't know why it's only the tacos. I don't know.
You got a taco trigger.
Yeah, I do. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But I love that my kids can love her and she loves them too. So it's great.
That's awesome. We do. We all have our little triggers and things that, even when things are going great, it's still like there's still a little jabs every now and then.
Just every now and then.
But it's like the more you work on yourself and the more you get to a certain place, so the quicker you are to recognize it and the quicker you are to overcome it. So
definitely. Yeah.
So that's
so important to pay attention to your triggers and figure out how to work around them. Cause my taco thing may always exist, but at least now I can just say, oh my gosh, that's awesome. I'm glad she made tacos for you. And in my mind, I can be hurt a little. Yeah.
It's like, we're going out to this taco place that has amazing best tacos in the world.
Yeah, let me just spend the whole weekend practicing making tacos, and then you'll love mine more.
You're gonna be a taco chef by the end of it.
Exactly. When awesome. Really, maybe what I should do is just have her teach me how to make the tacos that she likes. I bet she would, but
yeah. That's awesome.
We've got to that point where my kids' stepmom, there's a certain thing they love. It's carne con papas, and I made a cookbook for the kids. And I put that recipe in there. I messaged her and I said, how do you make it? She let me know. And I put that in there, and they still love to make that recipe. And my daughter will even make it for us. And it's her stepmom's recipe. So I've come a long way too.
Yeah, good for you. It's so funny when you look back, you really can see if you've done the work and you've really tried, you really can see how far you've come. And it might be little tiny things, and then there might be a big leap, but as long as you're making progress, that's all that matters.
That's right. Yeah. It's a journey, right? So it's just you want to improve a little bit every day. And by the time you get to a certain place, you'll look back and it'll be like, man, all right.
Yeah, exactly. You can be so proud of yourself and all the work that you've done.
Love that. Great wisdom. Love everything you've been sharing with us. I know our listeners are just, taking so much value out of this. We are enjoying your blended family. So we believe that the more fun you have, the less problems you'll see. So it's really trying to create more joyful opportunities in your family. So we always like that. Or what's one thing that like you and your kids love doing together? Just something that y'all have, just being in y'all's situation.
I know I just said I'm a terrible cook, but I'm not a bad baker. So the kids and I they love to bake with me. We love to do that. That's one of our favorite things to do, like just make a bunch of cookies, go outside and play and eat cookies all day, which maybe not, I guess maybe not the best, but we do love to do that. They really enjoy that.
Love that. I think it's so valuable just to have some, that fun, just focus on some fun moments and create that whenever you're all together. So
yeah.
Great stuff. Well, where can our listeners find you? So where can they find you? Let's start there.
Okay. So mostly just on Instagram, Co-Parenting Peacefully is my handle. I do have a website as well, but that's more for scheduling purposes. So Gotcha. Instagram is where you can get all the good stuff.
Okay. Awesome. And she has a lot of free resources. She has other resources that are out there. So definitely check them out. Just amazing stuff. And do you have anything new coming up or anything that you want to share?
I do. So I am coming up with a course that should be done hopefully in the next month or two, because I wanted to offer something for people who can't afford coaching. I still want to be able to help those who need it. So it's going to be a course just based off of boundaries, communication, triggers, maybe a little help with anxiety, some things you can do on your end to change your behavior if you need to. So that should be up soon, I hope.
Okay. Awesome.
Nice. As soon as you get that, we'll start sharing the link too with.
Oh, yay. Thank you. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. So stay tuned for that because that sounds amazing because we all need co-parenting peacefully.
Oh, yes.
Because whenever you can co-parent more peacefully, you will have more peace in yourself, in your home. Man, it is such a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, Katie, thank you for taking your time and just sharing your wisdom and kind of the whole message that you're doing now, on Instagram and just sharing that with everyone, how much we all need that. So many blended families, this is one of our biggest hangups, one of the hardest things that we can face, in a blended family, in a divorce situation. So I love what you're doing. Love the message, man. So keep up the great work. We would love to have you back later. Enjoy your blended family. I know you pulled some amazing nuggets from this. Be flexible. You can't compare yourself to other people because your family is going to look a lot differently. And boundaries are really important. So be able to set up those boundaries, whether it's a high conflict or just, a low conflict, but you got to do what's good for you and healthy as well. But the more you work on yourself, the more peace you'll see in your relationships. So, man, good stuff. Thank you, Katie, again for being here. And we will see you next time. So bye, enjoying your blended family. We'll see y'all later. Hey, thanks for joining us today for another episode of Enjoying Your Blended Family. All the links we've talked about today, they're in the show notes below. If you've enjoyed listening, be sure to subscribe below. It's free and it lets you know when we have another episode for you to listen to.
And if you want to help us out, leave us a rating and review so that we can keep reaching more people. Until next time, remember to enjoy the moment.